Vikings, in the first segment, we finished that part by talking about why note taking and note reviewing was so important. And we discussed this percent retention of material and how if we just continue to review day after day, just for a little bit of time, we're going to remember material better, which is going to make us more powerful learners and more successful students in the class. So now we're going to move on to the next activity. So for this part, you're going to have to prepare for this pop quiz. Each person in the room is going to need a quiz sheet. So in a moment, teacher's going to pass those quiz sheets out. Every student's going to need a writing utensil for this. So I'm going to go ahead and give the teachers about a minute to pass out those pop quiz sheets, and then I'll explain what you all have to do.
They say that money is the root to the evilest ways. But have you ever been so hungry it keeps you awake? Mate, now my hunger will leave them amazed. Great, it feels like a long time coming. Bam, since the day I thought of that cunning plan. One day I had a dream, I tried to chase it, but I wasn't going nowhere. Running mad, I knew that maybe someday I would understand. Trying to change a 10 to 100 grand. Everyone's a kid that no one cares about. You just gotta keep screaming till they hear you out.
All right, it's time for the pop quiz, ladies and gentlemen. This is where we challenge your memory and we challenge your ability to get all those 10 items that we tested you on correct. So here's what we're going to do. Students in the class that were able to write things down on their scrap sheet of paper at the beginning, you have 30 seconds to study. Again, all the people that were allowed to write down the terms on one side of the class, you can quickly review all those terms and study your notes. The students that did not get a chance to write down those items, do your best to try to remember. In a moment, we're going to begin the quiz, and then we'll review the quiz answers after we're done. So 30 seconds begins now. Start studying. Time is up, ladies and gentlemen. Quiz time. Quiz time. So now, with those quiz sheets, go ahead and write down those 10 items that you were asked to remember at the beginning of the lesson. Don't worry about the spelling. Just worry about the word. If you can spell it correctly, that's fantastic. You guys got about a minute of time here to get all those quiz items written down. When you're finished with your quiz, set your pencil down, flip your quiz upside down so people next to you can't see it. I'm sure there's no Vikings in this room anyways that would want to cheat. We're all on the honor system here, folks. Give you guys about 30 more seconds to write down those 10 items from earlier in the lesson. All right, students, start wrapping up what you were writing. And when I say set your pencils down, please set them down so we can review the answers. And stop, set your pencils down. All right, here's our quiz answers. Bubblegum, eraser, mockingbird, William Shakespeare, neon green, 43, notebook paper, botany, War of 1812, and Great Uncle. If you answered all 10 correctly at the end of this lesson, please give that quiz to your teacher. Your teacher will pass that along to me. And then I'll take a look and maybe I'll give you guys a shout out during the afternoon announcements. But you're not going to give that quiz to your teacher until the end of the lesson when we're all finished up. So now it's time to move on. All right, so conclusions. Let's have a quick discussion with our class. The people that were allowed to take and review notes, think about the following 2 questions. How did you do as a result of being able to take notes and review them before the quiz? And then secondly, how would you have done if you didn't get to write down the terms? Now, for those people that were not allowed to take and review the notes, I want you to think about 2 questions. How did you do? And how do you think you would have done if you would have been allowed to write down and review the terms? If there are any volunteers that want to share your responses with the teacher and the class, right now would be a good time to go ahead and raise your hand. Teachers, I'd like you to pause this slideshow, this screencast, and have a quick discussion about this. And when you're ready, you can go back to the screencast.
You ready? Let's go. Yeah. For those of you that want to know what we're all about, it's like this, y'all. This is 10% luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name. Like, he doesn't need his name up in lights, he just wants to.
All right, we're back. Let's talk about the next part of this lesson. You, Viking students, you are the Michael Jordan of school. You are the person that's destined to be great. You are the person that has a chance to seize the opportunity to be the best possible student that you can be in this school. And because you're destined for that greatness, because you're the next Michael Jordan of this school, today we're going to look at some things that you can do to become the best possible student you can be, because it doesn't happen overnight. You don't take a magic pill and all of a sudden become the next great student. You got to put in some work, you got to have some routines, and you got to have some strategies that you can rely on to be successful. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about first the 4 parts of Cornell notes. Now, you've been in school for about 4 weeks now, and you may or may not have heard about Cornell notes. There's 4 parts. Number 1, there's note taking. When you get into a class, what you're going to want to be able to do is take notes in class. Sometimes you take those notes when the teacher tells you to, and a lot of the times, if you really want to take your game to the next level, you're going to have to take notes even when the teacher's not telling you to. We call those air notes. Things that the teacher repeats. Things that the teacher emphasizes. Again, things that the teacher repeats. Things the teacher emphasizes you should take notes on. That's very important. The second step is note making. This is where you try to make your notes usable, because the fact of the matter is we're not going to have these perfectly neat notes when we're trying to get things down that the teacher's saying. Sometimes we write things down sloppy. Sometimes they're unorganized. And so when we note make, we want to go back and organize the ideas and make sense of what we've written down in days past. The third step is note interacting. And this is where now you take those notes and you study with them. You interact with them. You review, you ask yourselves questions, you review again, and you review again so that you can bump that retention back up, like we talked about on that graph with the percent of remembering material. And then finally, the 4th step is note reflecting. And this is where you think about how you can make your notes better, because becoming a good note taker takes time. And so every time you take notes and you review and you organize them, you should always consider, what can I do to become a better note taker? So, when you take notes, here are some things that you can do. And you don't have to do these things right now. These are just tips. The one thing you want to do is create your Cornell note paper. You want to have a space at the top for an essential question. This is a big question that covers everything you talk about in class. In the right-hand column of your notes, this is where you take your notes. And you're going to want to leave a left-hand column about a third of the way into your paper where you can write down questions that relate to these notes. And then at the end of your notes, you want to have space for a summary. Now, every good note taker should use their preferred style and organizational system when they're taking their notes. Some students like bullets, some students like numbers, some students even like to make pictures and diagrams of the things they're learning in class. The key is you got to take your notes to your level. Take ownership of your notes. So this is what note taking is all about. It's the format, it's the essential question, and it's using a style and an organizational system in your notes that's going to work for you. All right, it's time to prepare for our next activity. In this activity, each person in the room is going to get sample Cornell notes. And so in a moment, I'm going to ask the teachers to go ahead and pass those out. And you're going to, again, need a writing utensil for this activity, so make sure you have that ready. So teachers, go ahead and pass out the example Cornell notes that students are going to use for the rest of this lesson.
Yeah, cash money, heroes, private jets, polish, they shine. I look up to the sky, and now the world is mine. I've known it all my life. I made it. I used to dream my path, the life I'm living now. I know that there's no doubt. I made it. From the city when no one believed in me, but I never gave up the fight. Yeah, but now I'm on top. I told you to let it rock. Now money's falling from the sky.
All right, students. I picked that song, I Made It, Money Falling from the Sky. I'm going to tell you right now, if you can apply these tips throughout the school year and get better at them day after day after day, the dreams that you want are going to be yours. So with that in mind, let's get on with activity number 3. Everyone in front of them has the example notes. And in a moment, I'm going to show them up on the screen here. What I want you to do when I say go is pair read that example page of notes. And what I mean by a pair read is simply find a partner and take turns reading the notes that are on the page. Make sure that you read in low voices because we get a lot of people in the classrooms, and if we're reading super loud, it's going to distract other people. So just use that low inside voice to read these through, because anytime you're done taking notes, you want to go back and review them, and the first step is to reread them. So when you're done reading these notes, you and your partner should be able to verbally summarize what's in these notes. And you're going to see that the notes that I provided for you actually relate to the video that we talked about with Michael Jordan. The things that Michael Jordan did to be successful. So with that in mind, you can see right here on the screen is the example of the notes. You have those in front of you. It's a front and back sheet of paper. Take a second right now to pair read. Teachers, I'd like you to pause this screencast, and then we can come back and move on to the next activity. Okay, students and teachers, now that we've had a chance to pair read those notes, I'd like some volunteers to share how they would summarize the main idea of these notes, because as a note taker, once you've taken your notes in class in the right-hand column of your Cornell notes, once you've read through them, in your head you should be able to summarize the key ideas. So teachers, pause this screencast, give some students a chance to volunteer, maybe 2 or 3 people, and see if we can nail some pretty good summaries of what's in those notes. And that's going to conclude this segment of the lesson, teachers. So you're going to open up the third segment after this is completed.